Welcome back to Broncos Country Tonight, joined by Broncos TV and Broncos Beat. Alexis Perry joining us. How you doing, Alexis?
I'm doing so well. Thanks for having me, Ryan.
Definitely. Enjoy having you on, as always. Let's talk a little bit about some of the big news earlier this week. Obviously, with Steve before, we talked about the preseason games. The other one was Cam Newton. And by the way, a little golf clap for the Patriots, signing Cam Newton, getting that announced 16 minutes before the penalties came down for once again filming another team. But we can
timing is everything.
That's right. We can step away for that, but I just say from a PR perspective, I definitely had some appreciation for that. But let's talk a little bit about the reaction to Cam Newton signing with the Patriots. In a lot of ways, this felt very telegraphed. Of all the teams out there that could use a quarterback, despite what they kept saying about Jarrett Stidham, it really felt like Cam Newton could find a home there. The Patriots were simply not going to tank this year. So what was your reaction when you heard about that?
My initial reaction was like, oh my gosh, Bill Belichick strikes again. Like, are you kidding me? Can you believe this guy? After 2 decades, you have Tom Brady, one of the greatest quarterbacks, possibly, arguably, of all time. And instead of just going about it and grooming your young quarterback in Jarrett Stidham, going through those growing pains with him, molding your next franchise quarterback, let's just go ahead. We'll ink a veteran quarterback at the 11th hour, possibly win the division for the 12th straight year. Who cares? It's the Patriots way, right? I will say, in regard to how long it took for Cam Newton to get signed, I wasn't surprised. Just because this was a really, really weird offseason. He became a free agent in the middle of a pandemic during an offseason with very few vacancies at the starting quarterback position. And then on top of that, he's coming off a really serious foot injury. So I don't think, he didn't have that opportunity to go meet with teams face to face, kind of prove the kind of guy, how he could fit into any given locker room. And he didn't have the opportunity to kind of showed that he was physically ready to play. So that didn't help his cause at all. I think the most surprising thing about this entire deal, not only the timing of it, yes, that was unique. I will say the fact that really the Patriots, kind of the Browns, but not really, the Patriots were the only team interested in him. We were talking about this last week, behind the scenes during Broncos Beat, and we're like, really? Not even the Broncos considered him as a backup, nor Andy Dalton or really anyone else. So I think it's interesting now knowing kind of what his price tag was. Okay, he actually had a reasonable price tag. He might have been a really good fit here in Denver, minus the fact that I think the biggest incentive now for him in New England is the fact that he can actually start for that team, or at least compete to be the starter, right, with Jarrett Stidham. So it's really interesting. That was kind of the most surprising part to me, but what didn't surprise me at all was the fact that Bill Belichick wins again, whatever.
Yeah, and he definitely did. And you bring up the great point, of course, about the injury that he had, and teams weren't able to work him out. That was one of the bigger things. And you're right. Between Jameis Winston and Cam Newton, they're both making less than Chase Daniel this year. Right. And that doesn't really seem right. But let's move on to how this affects the Broncos, because, of course, the Broncos will be traveling out to Foxborough to face the Patriots in Week 5. Now, the Broncos have beaten Cam Newton every time they faced him, but they've never won at Foxborough. So how do you balance that equation?
This is the year. This is the year it's going to happen, because I really don't think that the signing of Cam Newton changes this matchup all that much. Maybe just a smidge, given the fact that now they have to account for the kind of playmaker that Cam Newton is. We know his greatest strengths. We know that he can make plays with his legs. But the Broncos, they're used to facing a quarterback like this, who's, even better than Cam Newton twice a year in Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes doesn't, that's not his initial thought, is to make a play with his legs, but every single time he has to, it seems like he does something magical. So I think the Broncos are going to be prepared for that. I think it's going to be a little bit more of a challenge, but at the end of the day, there's still a guy on this defense who can give a master's class in how to embarrass Cam Newton. Newton might have been the 2015 season MVP, but there's a reason why Von Miller was the Super Bowl 50 MVP, and it's because of what he did to Cam Newton. So I have a feeling sacks are going to come in bunches, and this is going to be a really big game for Von Miller. Offensively, how fun is this going to be? Drew Lock up against Cam Newton. You have a new guy going up against a former MVP. Super, super cool. But also the firepower. I think Drew Lock has more weapons, more firepower than Cam Newton will in New England. And it's going to be apparent. I think this is going to be a really big game for guys not named Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler. I think this is going to be Noah Fant's breakout game of the year. I'm really excited to see how the offense matches up.
I like that. Calling your shot a little bit. I can get behind that.
You know me.
That's right. Let's talk for just a moment about the AFC, kind of taking a big picture view. So I think a lot of people are like, oh, well, the Patriots will be out of it this year. The Bills, it's their division now. I don't think that's an immediate thing. And it's amazing how quickly things can change with just the addition of a quarterback. So how do you look at the rest of the AFC now? There's going to be 7 teams making the postseason. The Broncos are kind of obviously hoping to be one of those teams to make a leapfrog, but that means some teams are going to have to take a step back. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I do think some teams will have to take a step back. I think the Patriots might be one of those teams. They're going to have to give up their AFC East, title to the Buffalo Bills. I think the Bills are in a really good place right now, specifically with the signing of Stephon Diggs. I think he's going to help Josh Allen a ton. I mean, Josh Allen was well below the league average in deep pass accuracy last year. Stephon Diggs, he recorded a league-high 3 touchdowns on passes targeted at least 40 yards. So they just added the best receiver on deep ball passes in the entire league. So they're strengthening Josh Allen's biggest weakness. So I think that's going to be really huge. Dawson Knox coming back for the Bills. I mean, he was there. He was just really unhealthy last year. So I think that's going to help them go from a 10-win team to maybe an 11 or a 12-win team. And the Patriots are going to kind of have to be on the outside looking in a little bit, hoping to get one of those wild card spots. But for the Broncos, I don't think this makes a big difference for them at all. I think they were going to make the playoffs this year, whether or not Cam Newton was in the AFC.